Yo, guys, Urban Bars brings you the best UK reactions to rap, hip hop, and urban music from all around the world. And guys, sometimes we here at Urban Bars, we want to talk about some other topics away from rap and hip hop and urban music. And this is one of those cases, guys, where we're dropping in on our brother Thomas Sowell, and he's talking about how to make the poor stay poor. So this is a topic which is interesting to me. I like these kind of topics. I like to maybe have my 10 cents worth for whatever that's worth, guys. But it'll just be interesting to hear how our man Thomas Sorrell tells us all about how to make the poor stay poor.
Poverty used to mean hunger and inadequate clothing to protect you against the elements, as well as long hours of grinding labor to try to make ends meet. But today, most of the people living below the official poverty line not only have enough food, they are actually slightly more likely than others to be overweight.
Whoa, I did not know that. So the official poverty line has moved? Or is it the perception of the official poverty line that's changed? I'm going to hear that again, guys, because that was interesting. So the initial perception of poverty is for someone who doesn't have enough food and water to maintain themselves, and clothing, and maybe a shelter. Because I think one of these are the basic needs of people, isn't it? I remember doing this back in the days when I was at school. The basic needs and wants of people is to have food, is to have shelter, and to have clothing. But then he also said about not having to work all of the hours in between just to make ends meet. So that is an interesting definition, because what he was saying now is that today the idea and the definition of poverty and the people who fit into that description, actually they are more likely to be overweight, and they are more likely to have enough food, etc., to eat. So I'm a little bit confused. Let's be honest with you. I'm a little bit confused because I did not know this. I don't watch these videos. I don't watch anything beforehand. So I'm learning on the job, guys. So my reactions are my reactions, and I'm just trying to think this through. So that was interesting. And it says here, so this excerpt is taken from the book, The Thomas Sowell Reader. So that was interesting. So I want to hear that again.
Poverty used to mean hunger and inadequate clothing to protect you against the elements, as well as long hours of grinding labor to try to make ends meet. But today, most of the people living below the official poverty line not only have enough food, they are actually slightly more likely than others to be overweight.
So the official poverty line. If you know, guys, let me know in the comments section. So where is it moved from, and where is it moved to? I think that's what I need to understand.
Ordinary clothing is so plentiful that young hoodlums fight over designer clothes or fancy sneakers. As for work, there is less of that in lower income households today than among the affluent.
Hmm.
Most of today's poor have color TV and microwave ovens. Poverty in the old physical sense is nowhere near as widespread as it once was.
That's interesting. So poverty in the physical sense is no way near as widespread as it once was. Now, are we talking about in the Western world? Are we talking about the first world? Are we talking about included and inclusive of the third world? Are we talking about an aggregation between all of them? I don't know. This is interesting. This is all new to me. So very, very interesting.
Yet life at the bottom is no picnic, and is too often a nightmare. A recently published book titled Life at the Bottom paints a brilliantly insightful but very painful picture of the underclass,
Hmm.
its emptiness, agonies, violence, and moral squalor.
Hmm.
This book is about a British underclass neighborhood where its author, Theodore Dalrymple, works as a doctor. That may in fact make its message easier for many Americans to understand and accept. Most of the people that Dalrymple writes about are white, so it may be possible at last to take an honest look at the causes and consequences of an underclass lifestyle without fear of being called racist.
Hmm.
The people who are doing the same socially destructive and self-destructive things that are being done in underclass neighborhoods in the United States cannot claim that it is because their ancestors were enslaved or because they face racial discrimination.
Hmm.
Once those cop-outs are out of the way, maybe we can face reality and even talk sense about how things became such a mess and such a horror. As an emergency room physician, Theodore Dalrymple treats youngsters who have been beaten up so badly that they require medical attention because they try to do well in school.
What? They're beaten up so badly that they require medical attention because they try to do well in school. I do not comprehend. Is that what he said? Really?
Who have been beaten up so badly that they require medical attention because they try to do well in school. When that happens in American ghettos, the victims have been accused of acting white by trying to get an education.
American ghettos, you're trying to act white because you're trying to get an education. But guys, this is what I keep saying, and it's a worry to me. So it looks like it happens in many places. So instead of using that person's dedication, that person's ambition, that person's drive to make something of themselves or to better themselves, the anger is thrown at that person instead of absolutely giving a positive energy and a positive vibe towards that person. Say, well done. If you can do it, then I can do it. No, that's not the way. So what I'm getting from this piece is you're trying to get away from the ghetto, trying to improve yourself. So therefore, we will not let you do this. We will not allow you to do this. And we will use any means necessary to stop you from becoming all that you can be. We will do any means necessary to keep you down. And we will use even, for instance, the race card to say, look, you're trying to be like a white person. Is that what he said by getting an education? I mean, isn't that a double whammy against yourselves? I just can't comprehend that, guys. I can't comprehend. Anyone who does well should be a beacon to you that you can do well. You shouldn't try to drag them down to your level. You should try to raise yourself to their level and above and beyond. Oh my gosh. I've never heard this before in my life.
Do well in school. When that happens in American ghettos, the victims have been accused of acting white by trying to get an education.
Hmm.
On the other side of the Atlantic, both the victims and the hoodlums are white. The British underclass neighborhood in which Dalrymple works, like its American counterpart, features what he calls the kind of ferocious young egotist to whom I would give a wide berth in the broadest daylight. He sees also the destruction of the strong family ties that alone made emergence from poverty possible for large numbers of people.
Hmm.
Dalrymple's own father was
I like that. So, one of the factors in helping people to come out of that loop was a strong family ties. So support, you need support and encouragement to help you to move along and to progress. That's true. I agree with that. You do need support. I'm not saying you can't do it on your own, but it's a lot harder. But having support is a good thing. Guys, I'm just going to wheel it a little bit. That was interesting here. Wow, I did not know any of this.
daylight. He sees also the destruction of the strong family ties that alone made emergence from poverty possible for large numbers of people. Dalrymple's own father was born in a slum,
Hmm.
but in a very different social setting from that of today's underclass. For one thing, his father received a real education. The textbooks from which he was taught would be considered too tough in today's era of dumbed-down education.
I totally 100% agree with that. I believe that guys, this is my opinion. It may not be the opinion of anyone else, so I'll stand by my own opinion. I think we have been dumbed down in each and every way possible, whether it's in education, whether it's in what we're watching on the TV, in films, whether we are looking at things in sports. You can equate certain sports and look back over the years and see, maybe the equipment's better, costs more, but when you actually look at the sporting records, no, and they've changed so many sports that they're almost unrecognizable from the sports we had just a few short years ago. Guys, we've been dumbed down in every which way possible, and I don't know what the reason for doing that is, but there is definitely some sort of shaping of future society of how we've been dumbed down so badly. And I think we not only have we been dumbed down, but we've been let down. And it's a bit of a shame because I wish I'd kept hold of my textbooks from way back in the days as well, just to compare and contrast on what's going on in today's educational system. And it is a system, guys. But yeah, I'm glad he's brought that up because I've been thinking about that for a very long time.
Books from which he was taught would be considered too tough
Mm,
in today's era of dumbed-down education.
mm,
Dalrymple's father was given the tools to rise out of poverty, while today's underclass is not only denied those tools, but receives excuses for remaining in poverty,
mm,
and ideologies blaming their plight on others,
mm.
whom they are encouraged to envy and resent. The
Whoa.
net result is an underclass generation that has trouble spelling simple words or doing elementary arithmetic.
Guys, that's so true. Everything goes up in my head, guys. But I think you call it spelling bees in the States, etc. We were doing spelling from being knee high to a donkey. So I think my spelling is good. My vocabulary is very good. We were taught to read extensively. And that's what I've done from being very, very small person. So I still look to try and read books. And I basically lived in libraries and sort of lived in the reference centers of libraries, cross-checking other books, cross-checking encyclopedias and reference books, etc., etc., just in a thirst for knowledge, guys. But I believe that one of these things on the internet is not a great thing because there's no real sort of check and balance about what you're reading on the internet. I mean, it's not a bad thing, but it's nice to have, your reference books in front of you. But libraries seem to be disappearing as we speak, guys. So that seems to be a dying trade. And I think it is true. Sort of the books of yesteryear were very tough, very difficult. And the books of today seem to be quite a lot, as he said, dumbed down. So yeah, there is a correlation between what's going on, in my opinion, guys.
Envy and resent. The net result is an underclass generation that has trouble spelling simple
Mm,
words or doing elementary arithmetic,
yeah,
and
all in
which
the
has
head.
no intention of developing job skills.
Mm.
By having their physical needs taken care of by the welfare state, as if they were livestock, the underclass are left with a life emptied of meaning, as Dalrymple says.
I like that. That is so true. So they've been catered for to take care of their needs in a way that their life now doesn't have that meaning. So he said it's like livestock. Let's hear that again.
Elementary arithmetic, and which has no intention of developing job skills.
Mm.
By having their physical needs taken care of by the welfare state, as if they were livestock, the underclass are left with a life emptied of meaning, as
Mm.
Dalrymple says, since they cannot even take pride in providing their own food and shelter, as generations before them did.
Mm.
Worse, they are left with no sense of responsibility in a non-judgmental world.
Oh.
Some educators, intellectuals, and others may imagine that they are being friends of the poor by excusing or understanding their self-destructive behavior
Mm.
and encouraging a paranoid view of the larger world around them. But the most important thing anyone can do for the poor is to help them get out of poverty, as Dalrymple's father was helped by those who taught him and held him to standards.
I was always told, and wasn't it rather than if you teach a person to fish, you'll feed them for life because they now have a skill. So rather than if you just give them a fish, that will only feed them for one day. But if you teach them how to fish, or you can put that into any other field, then that person will have the ability to feed themselves for life. And I think it's the same thing about if you teach people, a skill, you teach people, you get the thorough education, etc., etc. So I think he's trying to say that, rather than handing things to people on a plate, because if you hand something to someone, that person won't learn. They will have it for a momentary time. And what happens the next time? What happens the next time after that? But if you sit them down and you give them the skills to actually achieve something, then they can actually go out and achieve and acquire for themselves. That's the way I was taught from being a very small child. So, that was interesting.
Paul's father was helped by those who taught him and held him to standards,
Mm,
treating him as a responsible human being, not livestock.
mm,
No summary can do justice to the vivid examples and penetrating insights in Life at the Bottom.
mm.
It needs to be read with the understanding that its story is also our story.
Well, that was interesting. So that was How to Make the Poor Stay Poor. I think it was by Thomas Sowell. Mm. Guys, that's something that's just going to open a whole lot of debate. Let me know what you think in the comment section, guys. That was food for thought in every which way and shape and form you can think of. It really got me thinking there, guys. I don't watch these videos beforehand, so my reaction was my first reaction. I'm not saying after due thought and consideration, I may change my opinion and my reactions, etc. But that's what I felt and thought on instantly hearing this. So, be interesting to know what you guys think about this. How to make the poor stay poor. I think there's a lot more to this debate than, yeah. So that was only 4 minutes and 4.5 minutes into a book, which is probably hundreds and hundreds of pages, guys. But that was really interesting, and there was a lot of stuff that I did not know about. It's like what they were talking about with the poverty line, the poverty level, and how they define poverty in today's society. Whereas, the definition of poverty, maybe a few short years before, in my eyes, was a little bit different. So, yeah, that was really, really interesting. Thomas Sowell, that's How to Make the Poor Stay Poor. Here at Urban Bars, we love to give you the music, from here, there, and everywhere. But we also like to, you know, spread our wings a little bit and branch out and actually to acquire a bit of knowledge on the way. But I hope you enjoy that, guys. There's a lot more from where that came from. And in a lot of cases, I will try and stay on the fence and try and play devil's advocate. But in other cases, I will boldly step and let you know what I'm thinking, and then just let you come back and let me know in the comment section, your responses, etc. But yeah, it's all good. It's all gravy, guys. There's no one who's right, no one who's wrong. It's just our own opinions, guys, and we will make them in a fair way here. I'm not judging you. I'm not saying you're right or wrong. I'm just learning, guys. I'm just learning. So I hope you fill up the comment section. Just let me know what you thought about that, because I thought that was so interesting. I've learned so much just in that 4.5 minutes, guys, that I did not know before. Let me know what you think. If you haven't already subscribed to my channel here at Urban Bars, please subscribe to Urban Bars and like, share, comment, as I said down below, and hit the notification bell to let you know when I'm dropping new reactions. But guys, I hope to see you at the next one. And you know that I drop reactions as much as I can, so there'll be another reaction coming along right after the next one. Guys, I'm out.